There have been many strange things happen in the mountains of Appalachia, from strange disappearances, cryptid sightings, alien encounters, and more. There are more legends surrounding the Appalachias than most places in the United States, but nothing is more strange than the human lightning rod. He was hit not once, twice, or even 3 times, but 7 times and survived. Appalachia, the mountains, are like no other. From its rigid terrain, beautiful wildlife, to the people that live their lives here, to the strange, unexplained stories that folks share. Join me while I share this amazing place, one story at a time. Roy Sullivan was your typical Appalachian man. He was born in Greene County, Virginia, February the 7th, 1912. His lifelong profession was a park ranger at the Shenandoah National Park. He started in 1936. He was often described as a rugged man who just loved the outdoors. Now, what's so special about this man? Well, he holds the Guinness Book of World Records for being hit by lightning 7 times over his career as a park ranger. The first time he was stricken was April of 1942. He was inside a lookout tower, hiding from an approaching storm. Unfortunately, the tower was not grounded with a lightning rod, and it was struck multiple times by lightning, caused the tower to erupt in flames. So Roy ran out into safety, and that's when he was struck. It burned a 1/2-inch stripe down his right leg and burned a hole in his shoe as it exited. The second time he was struck was in 1969. He was hit while driving a mountain road. In a strange twist of fate, a lightning bolt hit a tree as he passed, then it jumped through the open window, striking Sullivan. He was knocked out. His eyebrows and lashes were burnt off, and his hair was ablaze. The truck rolled to the stop right on the edge of a cliff. The very next year, Sullivan was hit by lightning in his very own front yard. It struck a transformer, then jumped, striking his left shoulder and burning it severely. The fourth time he was struck was in 1972 when he was hit while inside the ranger station. His hair was set ablaze and he ran to the restroom trying to put the fire out, but his big old head wouldn't even fit under the sink, so he wet a towel and smothered it out. After this fourth time, he began to think something wanted him dead, so every storm that came up, he would pull over and hide in a ditch. That's a pretty good idea, I think. What would happen next was even stranger. August of 1973, Sullivan was patrolling the mountain when he began to notice the sky looking mighty dark, as if a storm was approaching. So he turned his cruiser the other way and took off. The peculiar thing was that the storm seemed to follow him no matter where he went. But soon enough, he finally outran the storm, or so he thought. When he thought it was safe to get out, he did. As he walked away, he was struck. The bolt went through his head, down his left arm to his left leg, and jumped right below his right knee to the ground itself. It put him to the ground, and he crawled to his truck and pours water over his head and body to put out the fire yet again. A few years would pass, but yet another incident would take place. June of 76, the same as the time before, he saw a storm, ran from it, and it chased him, and when he thought it was safe, he got hit again. This time it would hurt his ankle, burn his hair off too. The poor feller might as well have just shaved his head at this point, because it was just going to be burnt off anyway. But the final time the man was hit would be 1 year later, June of 77. Sullivan was out freshwater fishing in a pond. Out of nowhere, he was hit by lightning on top of the head. It burnt his chest and his stomach. When Sullivan was headed for his car, an old bear come up and tried to steal the trout right off of the end of his line. As he did many times before, he beat the bear with a stick till it ran off, all while his hair was blazing. The poor feller wasn't getting struck and losing his fish too. Each incident was recorded by the superintendent of the national park. The word spread of the strange events, and newspapers, TV shows, and all sorts of folks flocked to Sullivan begging for an interview. He became famous. I mean, being in the Guinness Book of World Records is a pretty good deal. But sadly, September 28th, 1983, Roy Sullivan would pass. But not by lightning, of course. He actually took his own life. I'm sure that the constant fear of being struck, along with the effects of popularity and other issues, led him to this tragic event. So what attracted the lightning to Mr. Sullivan? Was something out to get him? Was he just stricken with bad luck? Or was there something else at play here? The answer to this strange mystery, we may never know. Well, folks, I want to thank you for sitting and listening to the strange tale of Roy Sullivan, the human lightning rod. I appreciate you listening. I love you to pieces, and I'll see you next time.